Darim is a woman in her early 30s who has been studying very hard to become a civil servant. But because of her age, even the teachers told her to give up and that she should just find a husband to support her. Even so, Darim was very determined and was working very hard to achieve it. She believed that this would be her year. The year she would finally achieve it. Her mother supported her in everything and didn't mind her trying at 30. Her sister, however, was ashamed of her. She even told her not to attend her wedding because she didn't want to introduce her failed sister to the guests. To avoid making her feel bad, she gave her a ticket to Yeyu Island, letting her get married while her sister vacationed. Her mother was furious and Darim felt guilty. But being kind, she pretended everything was fine and that she'd enjoy Yeyu Island more. Now we meet Jehyok. He is a successful businessman. Friends and countries fought to work with him. He seemed to be the perfect man, tall, handsome, and also rich. Any woman would want to be with him. But Jihyok wasn't interested in that. He believes love isn't real and prefers being alone. But his father was the owner of a company, so he wanted to marry him off to the heiress of another company so they could merge and become even bigger. Hayeon did want to marry him, but Jihyok tells her not even in her wildest dreams. A few days later, Darim visits the island but hears her ex's name at the airport. Apparently, she was very much in love with a programmer when she was in college, but he treated her very badly because she had failed the civil service exam more than twice. Also, because of the way she dressed, he told her she looked like boiled spinach. Jihyok, for his part, also came to the island to look for Darim's ex, because he wanted him on his work team on the island. Both of them were alone, although Darim, after walking around, started to feel lonely and bored. While she was walking, she runs into a former classmate. They both recognize each other and quickly start catching up. Her former classmate says she arrived with her boyfriend, but when introduced, he turns out to be her ex-programmer. He pretends not to know her to avoid misunderstandings, and Darim goes along with it. When asked who she came with, she says her boyfriend so she doesn't look bad. A tall and handsome executive, but because of work issues, he couldn't be with her. Later, Darim's mother calls, saying she bought a gift for her sister from Darim. This makes her feel bad because her mother was still giving her money and she couldn't pay her back. This makes her remember all her past interviews. Like when people started making fun of her for being 30 years old and still trying to be functional, already in the public eye. Because of that, she considered suicide, but her father's teachings helped her move forward. She suddenly sees a stranger shouting by the sea. This makes her think that he wants to end his life, so she hugs him and asks him not to do it, not to give up, and to keep fighting to move forward. He tells her that he was just cheering himself up, and then they both fall to the ground. Due to the impact, Darim is knocked out and Jihyok takes her to the hospital. But because she was drinking, she doesn't wake up. Jihyok leaves her there and leaves. When Darim wakes up, she learns she must pay all hospital expenses. Afterward, only 10,001 remains. The next morning, Darim goes to breakfast at the hotel and is surprised to see the man she saved right in front of her. So she decides to go and confront him, demanding that he pay her half of the hospital expenses. But suddenly, her ex-boyfriend appears. She doesn't want to be found out, so she tells them that Jae-hyuk is the handsome boyfriend she had told them about. He needed to get closer to the programmer, so he goes along with Darim. And after acting as the perfect boyfriend, he invites them to a party so he can present his project. They need to go to his room. Since they're on the same floor, Darim must stay in Jihyok's room to avoid being found. Then she scolds him for acting so shamelessly and tells him there's no way she'll go to the party with him. Jihyok explains the situation to her and tells her that she has to go because if she doesn't, they'll find out. To finally persuade her, he promises to repay her 10 times what she spent at the hospital. That's how Jihyok has to turn Darim into the perfect girlfriend. So he takes her shopping, but the prices were too high and Darim didn't want to spend that much. While they're looking in other stores, a lady drops her oranges and Darim quickly starts picking them up. Seeing how kind she was, Jihyok starts to see her differently, then convinces her to agree to buy the expensive clothes. By the evening, Darim looked really beautiful, and that made Jihyok fall completely in love with her. At the party, he asks Darim to act lovingly, to make his ex jealous and get them to join the work team. When they arrive with his ex, his plan works perfectly because he was really jealous seeing how beautiful Darim looked. With that, Jihyok makes his move and starts talking about his successful company, about how everyone who works with him becomes successful. This was way too obvious and Darim's ex notices, So he corners her and tells her to stop pretending. He even offers her 3 times what he's paying her. To get Jahyuk to confess, she tells him they're truly in a relationship and deeply in love. This doesn't quite convince his ex, so she starts asking all kinds of questions to catch them. But Jae-hyuk was very clever, so he manages to answer everything. Then Darim gets nervous and tells him that his ex is getting suspicious. Ji-hyuk says she should make it more believable, so Darim kisses him passionately. This makes Ji-hyuk feel the spark, so he kisses her too to see if she's the one. After such a kiss, there was no doubt that Darim and Ji-hyuk were really dating. But Darim's ex stubbornly wanted it not to be true. That's why, before she gets to the bathroom, he intercepts Darim and tells her that he caused all her drama, so he'll give her a chance. If she goes to his room at night, then he'll work with her boyfriend. Darim gets angry and tells him to leave her alone, but her ex just doesn't get it and tries to grab her by force. Fortunately, Ji-hyuk arrives and tells her ex-boyfriend he'll work with him if forgiven, but Ji-hyuk responds he doesn't work with trash. Then they both go to the beach and they both apologize for what happened. Suddenly, the water starts to glow. Darim's excitement makes Ji-hyuk fall even more in love. So he suggests they keep pretending to be a couple. She gets excited since the kiss was special for her too. So do they agree to meet the next day? Jae-hyuk, for his part, was very stressed, but he wanted the hours to pass as quickly as possible so he could be with Darim. Hours later, the big day arrives. They have a great time, as if they've always known each other. In the evening, Darim says she went on the trip due to personal issues, but doesn't share more to avoid spoiling the moment. Then, while they're looking for a clover, she finds a 4-leaf one and gives it to Ji-hyuk. These kinds of details make him fall a little more in love. Then they go boating. Darim thought she would get in trouble for hitting her ex, but Ji-hyuk tells her it's fine because he's the boss. Later, Darim falls into the water and Ji-hyuk saves her. When she wakes up, they share some good kisses. As they were about to get intimate, Darim suggests showering first, so Ji-hyuk goes to shower. At that moment, we see Darim's brother-in-law drowning in debt. He had lost all his money in cryptocurrencies, so he had no way to pay his huge debts. So Darim runs away with his sister to protect her from harm. The thugs were furious because no one was paying them their money, so they attacked Darim's mother. Her daughter had taken out multiple loans in her name and even mortgaged her house. As a result, she has an attack, prompting Darim to leave without saying goodbye to Ji-hyuk. When he realizes it, he tries to look for her, but only sees her running. No matter how hard he tries to catch up, he can't. Hours later, Darim arrives at the hospital and can't help but cry, afraid that her mother will die without seeing her succeed. Jae-hyuk, on his part, was angry because the girl of his dreams had run away, but then he remembers what she told him, that in her neighborhood there was a big tree next to a store. So he decides to start looking. Darim, on her part, was having a very hard time. The hospital bill was too high and Darim didn't have enough money to pay for it. When he gets home, more bad news awaits him. Hermana hasn't paid her loans, and if this continues, their house will be repossessed. Darim tries to talk to his sister, but no one answers him. With everything against him, Darim decides not to give up. He looks for part-time jobs and works very hard to pay for the hospital and his sister's debts. He also constantly sends her voice messages telling her not to worry, that somehow they'll be able to solve it. Ji-hyuk spent days searching for Darim's tree before finally finding the one in his neighborhood. He knew that was the right one, but Darim didn't show up anywhere, although his friend, who is a romantic, tells him he shouldn't give up so easily. That day, they ordered chicken to cope with their sorrows, and Darim delivered it. But neither could see the other's face to recognize them. Now we meet Ji-hyuk's mother. She was in a hospital, and her husband only took her out to show her off in front of the cameras. Ji-hyuk didn't agree with that. That's why he always confronted his father about it, but his father told him he couldn't talk to him. So Ji-hyuk asks him to divorce his mother and leave her alone once and for all. His father agrees, with the only condition that he works at his company and marries Haeon, so they can make a big merger. He agrees, but his sister didn't agree. She wanted the company for herself. That's why the next day, she decides to sabotage him. She wants to put together a team with the worst possible candidates, so that he fails and has to resign. At night, Darim's mother wakes up. She apologizes for making her suffer so much. Darim had a lot of debts to pay, and she knew that with a part-time salary, she would never be able to get a loan or pay off her debts. So she decides to look for a formal job at a company to get a loan and save her house. That's how she discovers that the company Natural Bebé was looking for mothers with no work experience to form a new work team. Darim didn't have children, so Darim pretends to be Jihoon's mother and sends in the application a few days later. Darim moves on to the next round and has to go to the job interview. Seeing the other mothers leave in tears, she begins to doubt herself. With no other options, she decides to get the job at any cost, working hard and accepting being looked down on as long as they hire her. At night, Darim wasn't sure if she had gotten the job, so her friend encourages her not to give up. Darim says she has to act like and says that she has to act like she's a man. Darim says Darian tells her to act. Darian tells her Darian tells her says. She must act like a man. Darim tells her to act as Darim says. She must act like she's a man. Darim must act like Yeyu's man. This makes her uncomfortable and Ji-hyuk feels worse because he thinks Darim has a husband and a son. So she was just toying with him the whole time and is actually unfaithful. That's why he decides to confront her and asks her what their time on the island meant. Darim explains she was confused, which led to what happened. Later, Ji-hyuk tells the team of mothers that he doesn't expect anything from them, that they can do whatever they want. In the end, they'll be fired anyway. Yeyon wanted to hire Sonu as a photographer for a presentation at her mother's gallery, but was captivated by his passion for his work. However, Sonu wasn't interested. He avoided art because that's how he lost his wife. At night after work, Ji-hyuk confronts Darim, saying her presence is uncomfortable and he wants her to quit since he's been searching for her. But now it's pointless since she's married with a child. Later, Darim considers quitting, but since she has a lot of debts to pay, she can't do it. She wants to work at least those 6 months to be able to pay off her debts. The next day, Ji-hyuk tells Darim to quit once and for all, but she tries to explain things to him. She tells him that what happened between them was like an accident, that they can simply forget about it and move on with their lives. But that makes Ji-hyuk even angrier, and he tells her that he never thought she could be so shameless, so he asks her again to leave once and for all. Darim gets angry and says she won't leave. If he wants her out, he'll have to fire her. Because of this, Ji-hyuk plans to give her so much work that she'll quit. The next day, he gives her a very difficult task. She heats water and soaks baby bottles every 30 minutes, totaling 108 times in 5 days. It's extremely difficult, but Ji-hyuk tells her that if she doesn't succeed, she'll have to quit. When night falls, Darim completes her mission exactly as instructed. She worked for days without rest and barely slept. Something happened on the last night. Ji-hyuk went hoping to find her asleep, but saw only her tent on fire. He tried to save her, but Darim was already outside. After that, he hugs her and tells her he was very worried. Once calm, he tells Darim to quit since she can't handle risks. She tells him again that she won't do it, but then she sees that he still had the 4-leaf clover she had given him. This makes Ji-hyuk even angrier, and he throws the clover in front of her. The next day, Darim was very nervous because Ji-hyuk hadn't gone to work for several days. Because of this, she thought he would get fired, but her coworkers told her that wasn't possible because he's the owner's son. Meanwhile, he went to visit his mother. She was the only person besides Darim with whom he could smile. In the afternoon, Darim was shopping and suddenly ran into her coworker. When she realized she was caught, she must introduce Sonu as her husband. The next day, the mother's team felt very discouraged, convinced they'd be laid off in 6 months no matter what they did. Anyway, Darim tells them that they can't leave without fighting, that they have to do a good job and show results. This way, they can't be fired, and if they are, they'll at least leave a mark on the company. This makes everyone work really hard. After much effort, they produce a great report, but Ji-hyuk must test it. Unfortunately, Darim has to present. He tells her he won't read it and throws her report into the water. Darim goes after them since it was the work of all her classmates, but since she didn't know how to swim, Ji-hyuk has to save her. Then he takes pity on her and takes her to his house. He asks her to explain her report on the way. Darim explains, and Ji-hyuk tells her to summarize it in 5 pages. But when she gets home, some debt collectors are waiting for her. She pretends to be someone else so they'll leave her alone. The thugs were about to believe her, but Ji-hyuk arrives with his cell phone and calls her by her name. Because of this, they have to run away to avoid being caught, and they hide in a locker. They're very close together. They were about to kiss again, but Seonu arrives to interrupt them, and seeing them so close together, he asks who he is. Ji-hyuk says he's her boss, while Seonu responds that he's her husband. Because of this, he has no choice but to step aside. When they get home, Seonu wants to report the thugs, but Darim tells him not to because she's afraid of retaliation. But Seonu tells her that she has no other way out, because the interest is too high for her to pay. For his part, Ji-hyuk was very angry about how Seonu treated Darim. As for her, she couldn't stop thinking about her boss and how close they were. The next day, Darim presents her report, but Ji-hyuk is distracted. Later, it turns out that her report was a complete success. The whole team thought it was thanks to Darim and that Ji-hyuk just took the credit, but she tells them that her boss reviewed it and corrected it at the last moment. And thanks to that, she was able to do better. Seeing that the mom's team was having success, her sister felt angry. So she tells their father that Ji-hyuk didn't go to work for several days. He confronts him, saying he needs to grow up, but he responds that he's paid for results, not extra work. We thought it was because his mother was sick, but it turns out that Ji-hyuk's dad cheated on her and brought his daughter to the house. His mother couldn't handle it and had a breakdown where she became unstable. Since then, she was hospitalized, and Darim's mother was in the same hospital. After leaving the bathroom, they run into Ji-hyuk, who acts very kindly. This makes her mother thank him for hiring her daughter and giving her the opportunity she really wanted. Since she started working, her eyes have done nothing but shine. This makes Ji-hyuk feel a little bad, so he decides not to force her to quit anymore. Darim asks him to give all her co-workers a chance, and Ji-hyuk agrees. But they all have to do their best in order to get the full-time job. Meanwhile, Hae-young became obsessed with Sonu and wanted to hire him at all costs. But he was very busy because he had to pick up his son and didn't have time to work. When she hears this, she offers to pick up his son so they could talk afterwards. When she arrives, the children are jealous of his beautiful friend. Ji-hyuk's sister was furious that everything was going well for her brother. That's why the next day, she orders the mother's team to do a live presentation about the diapers they're promoting. They were all very excited, but Ji-hyuk knew it was a trap. Even so, he has no choice but to go along with them during the broadcast. They should give out prizes, and Darim wanted a very special one so that people would be more excited. But since it was the star product, it was already sold out. Though it was a couples contest raffle, Darim chose to join. Ji-hyuk was hesitant, but seeing Darim's effort, he decided to participate too. During the kissing game, they lost, but Ji-hyuk still got a small kiss. Because of that, he bought the prize from the other couple, even though he paid them a lot. When Mrs. Nansu arrived at the company, she was very worried because her son had a high fever. The other hosts suffered a blow to the face and could no longer go out. In the end, just Darim and Miss Lee remained. Since it was their first time, they didn't know what to do and simply read the written script. After talking a bit, they gained confidence and do it well. Then people asked them why their diapers are better. Miss Lee says she can't answer that because she's never used another brand, since she had her daughter when she was very young. Her husband did what he could to support them, but after he passed away, she was left alone and without support. Fortunately, she won a year's supply of natural baby diapers, and that helped her raise her daughter without any rashes. This moves people, and they send her all their support. Then comes the time to change a diaper, but Darim didn't know how to do it. Still, he did his best for his daughter. It broke, but that was because Ji-hyuk's sister gave him a defective diaper. This makes the other director scold her, but Ji-hyuk tells him that he's the only one who can scold her. When she leaves work, Darim wanted to practice changing diapers, but the loan sharks kidnap her. Luckily for her, Ji-hyuk manages to see her, so he goes after her. The loan sharks wanted their money, but Darim hadn't even received her first paycheck, so they tell her they'll take parts of her body to sell them. Darim begs them not to do it. Thank goodness. At that moment, Ji-hyuk arrives and tells them not to touch her, saying he'll buy her as she is. When they see the black card, the loan sharks kindly sell Darim. But when checking her, Ji-hyuk sees that she had wounds on her hands. That's why he warns the thug not to get close to her again, or else he'll buy him too. He takes her to his house, and Sonu watches through the window. This prompts Sonu to come down and check on her. She tells him that she was kidnapped and that Ji-hyuk saved her and paid her debt. Sonu suspects his boss is in love with her, but Darim says that's not true. The next day, Ji-hyuk was still confused. His feelings for Darim remained strong. Meanwhile, at the office, the mothers were worried about the live broadcast. To calm them down, Ji-hyuk reveals that everything went well. Despite their mistakes, the broadcast had good results. They even sold much more than expected. Because of this, all the mothers feel more relieved. Later, Darim tells Ji-hyuk that she will pay him back all his money, but she'll do it in monthly installments without interest. He agrees, but tells her that her husband is careless and unable to protect his wife. Darim insists that's not true and says he's usually good and loves her a lot. This makes Ji-hyuk angry and he orders her to be quiet. Darim doesn't want to, but he makes it clear that her whole body belongs to him until she pays her debt. With that, he starts bothering her all day, telling her she needs to eat better and exercise to keep her body healthier. For her part, Yeyu goes to visit Seonwoo. She wanted to ask him why Jun never met his mother. He answers that his mother abandoned them shortly after giving birth. Does that mean he's single? Yeyu gets excited because now she has a chance. At the same time, the mother's team goes to the company park to do some minor maintenance. During the break, Darim meets a troubled mother who says she buys diapers from another brand. Because a percentage of the profits helps reforest the world, and now that she's a mother, she cares more about those things. Later, while walking, he finds a tree with the name Ji-hyuk. Apparently, he and his mother planted it when he was a child. Because his mother is sick, Darim says she'll take nice pictures for him to show her, and later shares her idea. She wants to promote the park and give it more attention. Because women, after becoming mothers, think more about their children's future, meaning they want a healthier and cleaner world for them. The next day, Ji-hyuk's sister wanted to run a campaign with influencers to improve their corporate image. But Ji-hyuk wanted to use Darim's idea to have a better image in the eyes of the world. Unsure which idea to pick, the president tells them to compete. When they found out, the mother's team was a little discouraged since it was too much pressure for them, but the marketing team tries to belittle them and tells them that beating some inexperienced mothers will be very easy. This makes the ladies angry, and they respond that they will win, no matter what happens. When they return to the office, Darim motivates them, and everyone works without checking the time. The only thing they want is to do a good project. When they finish, it turns out they did a great job. But for this project, had they hired Sonu, also Haeyeon would participate as well, meaning that both couples will be together. Sonu acts as Darim's ideal husband, making it clear to Ji-hyuk that they're a happy couple who can't be separated. Haeyeon then arrives and learns Sonu was believed to be Darim's husband. He quickly explains to her what's going on and asks her not to reveal his secret. Darim also tells Ji-hyuk not to mention what happened. Ji-hyuk, wanting to avoid misunderstanding, says it's fine. In fact, he can erase it from his memory and act as if nothing ever happened. But then both of them start to feel jealous when they see how everyone in the office tells them how good they look together and how lucky they are to have each other. After work, Haeyeon tells him that she wants a photo session as compensation for keeping the secret. After the photo session, Haeyeon falls even more in love with Sonu. A few days later, they prepare for their campaign and Sonu starts taking photos. Seeing how well he gets along with Darim, Ji-hyuk, and Haeyeon start to feel jealous. At night, everyone goes out to eat. Sonu steps out for air, followed by Darim, then Ji-hyuk. He sees Haeyeon kissing Sonu, so he quickly takes Darim elsewhere to avoid being discovered. While they're talking about love, Sonu calls her. When night comes, they have to sleep in the same room. This makes Ji-hyuk think a lot and get very anxious. For his part, Sonu wanted to take the opportunity to confess his feelings to Darim, but she doesn't understand and starts teasing him. The next day, Ji-hyuk was unsure if he should tell Darim what he saw. When noon arrived, everyone goes to eat together and Mrs. Yu starts telling them that she saw her friend's husband with another woman. That makes Ji-hyuk interested in the gossip, and he takes the opportunity to ask her if she will tell her friend. The others say she should do it, but Mrs. Yu says no, that it could be a misunderstanding. And if she tells her, then she will ruin a marriage. Meanwhile, Ji-hyuk's mother goes out for a walk. Seeing the relapse, Darim's mother tries to cheer her up when she sees her scars. She tells her that she also thought about taking her own life, but she didn't do it because it would hurt her daughters. This makes Ji-hyuk's mother feel worse, so she runs away from the lady. The next day, Sonu had a work meeting. Hyeyeon seizes the chance to flirt with him when she sees them together. Jigyuk thinks he's shameless and seduces every woman. Because of that, he wants to keep them apart to protect Darim. But Hyeyeon doesn't cooperate. She even starts caressing Sonu under the table after the meeting ends. Darim had a stomachache, so Jigyuk stays with her to take care of her. Afterwards, he goes to Hyeyeon to tell her to stop being so shameless. She can't be with a married man. She wants to tell him the truth, but doesn't want to break her promise to Sonu since Jigyuk is unaware. She says she must respect him since she will proceed with the engagement. The next day, they would finally present their projects. The marketing team was confident, but Jigyuk gives a wonderful presentation. And the mothers do their part. This moves all the directors, and they declare the Green Project as the winner, meaning the mothers team won. After that, they go celebrate there. Mrs. Ju tells them that Sonu's husband, Amiga, was ultimately honest and told his wife the truth. But her friend was very much in love and didn't want a divorce. Darim says that if something like that happened to her, she would get a divorce. Living with a man who cheated on you must be miserable. Afterwards, everyone goes home. Darim and Jigyuk are left alone. He wanted to tell her what he saw, but when he saw her drunk, he didn't have the courage to do it. She confesses to him that she realized everything he did. That's why she asks him to stop being so kind. Each act makes her happier and deepens her feelings, but she knows that's wrong. Before Jigyuk can say anything to her, she falls asleep. The next day, Darim remembers everything she said and feels embarrassed in front of Jigyuk, wanting to spare his feelings. She tells him she doesn't remember what happened. In the afternoon, Darim kept working, but because of her stomachache, she couldn't concentrate. Jigyuk wants to help her, but Darim doesn't want to be a burden to him. Because of this, he tells her she can't when he takes her to the hospital. It was all caused by stress. Jigyuk feels guilty and stays with her to take care of her. When she wakes up, Darim wants to go home, but her boss tells her no, not until she's completely healthy. The next day, they begin phase 1 of the Green Project. The company selected couples to plant trees with their children's names, so both would grow at the same time. The mothers were very excited because their project had worked. The marketing manager, for his part, was following Darim and Jigyuk to catch them if anything happened. But no matter how much he followed them, he didn't find anything suspicious and ended up falling asleep. Later, we see that Hyeyeon's brother and Jigyuk's sister had left earlier, but he got married and left her because she had no ambition. Back with the mothers, it turns out that Mrs. Hong's son got lost. That's why everyone starts looking for him. While Darim is searching, she slips and faints. Suddenly, it also starts to rain. Darim is nowhere to be found, and Jigyuk has to go look for her when he finds her. They can't leave because of the rain, or so he claimed. In truth, he just wanted more time with her. When Sonu found out, he quickly ran to rescue her. Meanwhile, Jigyuk and Darim were huddled close together to keep warm. But before anything else could happen, Sonu arrived and interrupted them. Jigyuk didn't want her to leave with him, but he couldn't stand in the way because he was supposedly her husband. The next day, Jigyuk's father wants to do another interview with his wife, but she doesn't want to see him, so she hides so they won't find her. Luckily for her, Darim's mother helps her hide when she sees how scared she is. She fears the worst when the lady tells her everything that happened. Darim's mother is very sad, but she tells her that she should have left her husband the first time he treated her badly. She tells her that she was afraid to be alone. That's why she just endured it for the sake of her family. Darim's mother tells her that her son must have been the one who suffered the most, because no child likes to see their mother sad. For his part, Jigyuk was very sick due to the fever. He starts hallucinating and confronts his father for being a bad person and cheating on his mother. But this causes him to have a contradiction, since he is doing something similar. He believes that Darim is married and that she is cheating on her husband with him. At night, Darim gets Jigyuk's address and goes to leave him something to eat so he feels better. But he receives her very coldly and abruptly, telling her that she should mind appearances, that a married woman shouldn't visit other men at night. That makes Darim feel really bad about everything that's happening, about her lie. Jigyuk, for his part, also feels bad because he and Hyeyeon are ruining a marriage. So he decides to tie her down, and that's why he agrees to marry her as soon as possible. Hyeyeon doesn't want to do it, but her mother and father tell her she can't decide about that. When he returns home, Jigyuk's mother finds out that her son is getting married out of obligation. His father gave him that condition in exchange for granting him the divorce the next day, everyone finds out about the engagement. Darim feels bad because Jigyok and Hyeon seem like the perfect couple. She tells herself that someone like her couldn't be with someone like him. But then she pulls herself together and decides to act like a professional and keep her feelings in check. Yeon tells her mother she won't marry because she's in love with someone else. She tells her not to be silly and that she can't choose who to marry. The next day, Jigyok has to go with the marketing team to do a report. But the manager also invited Darim to leave them together and catch them red-handed. After the report, the manager takes the parents away to leave the two of them alone. That way he could have evidence that something is going on between the two of them. Both of them take care of the 4 kids and have a great time together. When night falls, the manager leaves them alone on the island, hoping to discover something. He even rented all the rooms at the inn so they would have to sleep together after eating and showering. Jigyok sees a spider, and since he's afraid, Darim has to take it out. That makes them make a lot of strange noises, and the manager thinks they're some kind of indecent savages. Jigyok later wakes up and, feeling his heart race with Darim nearby, goes out for a run. The next day, his mother tells him not to marry and to find and wed the woman he truly loves. Xiaoyong, for her part, was desperate. She didn't want to get married. At that moment, Jigyok appears and hits him. Xiaoyong wanted to tell him the truth, but Xiaoyong doesn't let her. They stand facing each other and talk. Jihyok tells him that he should think about his wife. He thanks him for his concern, but makes it clear that he is very much in love and would never do anything to hurt her. A few days later, Jihyok missed Darim a lot, so he goes to her neighborhood. But there he finds her with her supposed husband and her son. The worst part was that they looked like a happy family. That makes him feel even worse, so he keeps telling himself that marrying Haeyeon is the right decision. The next day, he goes to his engagement party, but before the ceremony, he hears Sonu's son call her Aunt Darim. That's how he finds out the truth, but he still has to go through with the engagement party. Jihyok's mother didn't agree with it, so she pretends to have an attack. After he leaves the party, she tells him at the hospital that she won't let him sacrifice himself for her. They had hired one of the best lawyers in Korea. He wanted them to help him get his company and the shares that had made him famous back. Dollar Lawyer makes a small cameo in this scene. Then he tells her that to make it a fair fight, she should hide so her husband doesn't try anything bad. Ji-hyuk thought it was dangerous, but his mother says he still has to do it. The next day, knowing the truth, Ji-hyuk begins questioning Darim about everything. He wanted her to reveal herself, but since she keeps pretending, he gives her more work as punishment. Later, Ji-hyuk arrives and tells her that he already knows everything. Then, it looks like he's kissing her. Darim sees them and runs out. Then Ji-hyuk asks Hyun to keep up their engagement until his mother can divorce his father. She agrees, but tells him that she won't hide her feelings for Sonu. Later, Ji-hyuk asks Darim to be honest, but she thought he was talking about work. Because of that, he has no choice but to ask her directly if she was really married and had a child. She decides to tell the truth, but Ji-hyuk tells her that it's already too late and that he can't work with someone who isn't honest. That's why you're fired. At night, Darim goes to visit her mother. She tells her that thanks to her job, they were able to get through that terrible time. This makes Darim not want to lose her job, so she goes to Ji-hyuk's house. In the rain, he sees her, brings an umbrella, and invites her in to explain everything. She tells him everything, that his job offer really saved her life. So she asks him for a little more time so she can find another job. Ji-hyuk tells her that he needs time to think about it. When she gets home, Sonu comforts Darim, telling her that now she'll be able to get a better job. He also confesses his feelings, telling her he has liked her for a long time, but doesn't want to pressure her, and that she can take all the time she needs to respond. The next day, Darim helps the cleaning lady. That makes Ji-hyuk remember why he fell in love with her. Despite everything that happened, she was still the same person. Later, the two of them had to go out to hand out invitations. This makes Ji-hyuk order her to do all kinds of tasks to get revenge. Meanwhile, Ji-hyuk's mother tells him the truth. He tells Darim's mother that she needs to hide for a while, but she doesn't know where to go. Since she was just as kind as her daughter, he tells her she can stay at his house. Then, Ji-hyuk tells Sonu that he already knows everything, and also confirms that he will fire Darim. Sonu confirms this and replies that it doesn't matter, because he will take care of her. Does that make Ji-hyuk feel jealous because of it? During the interview, they start arguing to try to look better than the other. Then they interview Darim, and asks her questions to highlight each of them. She doesn't want to hurt anyone, so she compliments both of them. In the end, they have to hold hands and both squeeze tightly to show who is better. At night, Ji-hyuk wanted to give Darim more work to keep her from leaving, but she had already finished everything and had nothing left to do. Because of this, Ji-hyuk asks her to go out with him, but she ignores him, so he closes the door and then kisses her. But because of his engagement, she thinks he's just playing with her. The next day, Darim sees how it looked like he was kissing the lady. Hong and her classmates confess to her that he did it with them too, but they weren't talking about the kiss. They meant that he scolded all of them. That makes her think that Ji-hyuk might actually be interested in her. But even so, Darim is committed, so she doesn't want to be the other woman. Later, they have to go buy some gifts, and Ji-hyuk takes the opportunity to tell her that he likes her. Darim wants to ignore him and tells him there's no reason for him to like her. But Ji-hyuk keeps insisting and gives her a lot of details about why he likes her. The next day, Ji-hyuk's mother would be discharged from the hospital. He didn't agree with her going to a friend's house, but when he finds out that the friend is Darim's mother, he completely changes his mind. And he tells her that it's the Sazin Eskai the Sony and English mix, Sazin Belgodeba. Homemade bathroom 2, G Subo and the Sonok family. Before that, Assistant Kang tells him the most beautiful woman in the office likes him. By the way he describes her, he thinks it's Darim and tells him that she's off limits. But when he says it's actually Miss Lee, Ji-hyuk gives him his blessing. The next day, Darim's mother shows her photos from when she was a child. Darim feels very embarrassed, but Ji-hyuk's mother tells her that she wishes she could have made an album like that for her son. So she doesn't feel so bad. She suggests having a picnic. But unfortunately for Ji-hyuk, they also invited Sun-woo, which makes them compete again. Ji-hyuk unfortunately loses the game. Sun-woo was an athlete in school, which is why he beat him so easily. When night falls, Ji-hyuk's mother tells him her story. She tells Darim her son acts differently around her, so she asks her to look after him and get along with him. Afterwards, Darim talks to her mother and asks her, "How can you tell when someone is in love with you?" Her mother tells her that she shouldn't pay attention to what he says, but rather focus on what he does. Her father never confessed his love to her, but he was always with her in her happiest and most difficult moments. That makes her reflect, and she realizes that Ji-hyuk was really with her all along. He always worried about her and cared for her more than anyone. The next day was the Green Project art exhibition. Since they were engaged, Ji-hyuk and Ha-young had to act like a couple, which makes Darim feel jealous because they do it too well. Later, everything went as planned. The parents enjoyed the presentation, and it seemed like another success for the mother's team. But Ji-hyuk's sister and Ha-young's brother had other plans. They hired a criminal to burn everything down. Ji-hyuk finds out and fights him, but the guy was very strong. In the end, he manages to defeat him. He starts the fire. When the alarm sounds, the mother's team quickly organizes an orderly evacuation, getting guests to safety. But Ji-hyuk is nowhere to be found. So Darim goes into the burning building and carries Ji-hyuk out on her back. When he wakes up, he feels very happy, so he takes the opportunity to confess his love to her. Darim tells him that she loves him too, and then they both kiss. But before the second kiss, Secretary Han interrupts them at night. Ji-hyuk was very sad. Even though he had almost died, he seemed like the happiest guy in the world. The secretary reminds him that Darim saved his life. That's why he should treat her better now and not bother her so much at work anymore. Ji-hyuk was extremely happy because his feelings were reciprocated. Now he knew that Darim felt the same way. The next day, Darim wants to get ready, but she doesn't know what to wear. Ji-hyuk's mother offers to help her, but the clothes she picked out were a bit too short to convince her. She says it's something her son would choose. At the office, Ji-hyuk holds Darim's hand and has also sent her flowers. The mothers thought it had been her husband, but Ji-hyuk doesn't care because that was their first day together. Since they were being very affectionate, the mothers almost caught them. So Ji-hyuk pretends to scold her, so they don't get the wrong idea. But in reality, they were planning a date. Later, Ji-hyuk asks for all the recordings of the exhibition. That way, he could identify the culprit. When night falls, Darim wants to answer Sonu, But knowing she'll reject him, he asks to talk another day. The next day, Darim and Ji-hyuk eat together far from work to avoid being seen. When they return, the team of mothers is there too. Because of that, Ji-hyuk has to hide and Darim distracts them so they won't recognize them. Later, Darim wants to invite Ji-hyuk to eat, but he tells her that he needs to find a document first. Hearing that, she chooses to help him, leading her to realize how amazing Ji-hyuk's mother was. Sonu discovers that Ji-hyuk sent flowers to Darim. That makes him sad, then Darim arrives and asks to talk to him. Seeing how nervous she was, Sonu decides to pretend that it was all a joke, so that Darim doesn't have to reject him. The next day, Haeyeon went to Sonu to tell him that their works would be sold, but he was very sad. Haeyeon tries to comfort him, saying the worst is over. For her part, Ji-hyuk's sister orders that the mother's team be moved to customer service, so when they make a mistake, they can use it against Ji-hyuk. The mothers do their best, but the customers were too rude and they all end up very stressed. Darim prepares tea and sees her boyfriend behaving romantically with Haeyeon. That makes her jealous because they do it too well. Then she runs into Haeyeon in the bathroom. She tells her that she has nothing to worry about because she's in love with Sonu. Since it was just a misunderstanding, they decide to get a drink. Darim asks her why she likes Sonu, and she tells him that he's a very warm and gentle man. Besides, he's very handsome and always fills the people he cares about with love. After that, they start drinking like there's no tomorrow. When they're drunk, the two agree to be sisters. Since they're drunk, Sonu and Ji-hyuk have to go get them. When they get home, the two sleep together as if they really were sisters. Then, Sonu takes the opportunity to talk to Ji-hyuk. He tells him that Darim is really good for him and warns him that if he hurts her, he'll beat him up. Ji-hyuk assures him he loves her deeply and would never harm her, so there's no need to worry. The next day, Haeyeon takes advantage of being at Darim's house to take Yoon to school. He gets very happy to be with Haeyeon. They get along very well. And Yoon takes the opportunity to invite her to the talent show. Meanwhile, at the office, a mother calls Darim and tells her that a diaper had something strange in it and demands compensation. Darim explains the procedure to her, but the lady gets upset and yells. She then posts a complaint online with a fake audio recording of the call. In it, you hear Darim belittle her for being a mother. Ji-hyuk's sister takes advantage of that to make the problem bigger and harm the mother's team. Darim tries to apologize, but the other mothers don't listen to her. The mother's team quickly comes out to defend her. Ji-hyuk, for his part, wants to sue the mother who made the post, but Darim tells him they should resolve it another way. That's why they accompany her, as protocol dictates. The mother becomes angry and tells them to leave, but as they argue, her son's stroller rolls down a slope. Darim rushes to save the baby but is injured. That makes the lady apologize, and she promises to clear up the whole misunderstanding. It turns out that she lost her job and saw the opportunity to work at Natural Bebé. Since she had a good resume, she thought they would hire her, but unfortunately she was rejected. That's why she was resentful toward the company and wanted to get revenge on them. This post clears up the misunderstanding, but it makes Darim feel bad because she thinks she took someone else's job. Once the misunderstanding is cleared up, she is named Employee of the Month. The team of mothers was very proud of her, but all that attention made Darim. That's why, after thinking about it a lot, she decides to quit. But Ji-hyuk steps forward and asks to develop a new product. If they succeed, then the mother team will be hired full-time. Because of that, he asks Darim not to quit, to help her colleagues get the full-time job. Darim says she feels guilty, thinking someone more capable should have her position, but Ji-hyuk disagrees, that his sister selected the worst candidates, meaning she didn't take anyone's job. Besides, she's the heart of the team. Without her, they'd just be an exhibition team. Darim agrees to help her friends and promises to do her best. Ji-hyuk hugs her, assuring her everything will be fine. But Mrs. Ju sees them hugging outside. She believes she was being unfaithful because she thought she was married. Then she tells everything to her friends, and they think the worst. That night was Jun Hye-yeon's talent show. He had gone with a huge camera to take lots of pictures of her. But Sunwoo was very busy at work, so he couldn't make it in time. So she wouldn't miss participating. Hye-yeon offers to sing with him. They both do very well, and Jun doesn't feel sad anymore. Sunwoo apologizes to him and thanks Hye-yeon for helping his son. But at home, he tells Hye-yeon he feels nothing romantic for her and asks her to stop giving his son false hope. The next day, Darim wanted to motivate her classmates, but they were acting very wrongly, thinking that she was cheating on her husband. Because of that, Darim decides to tell them the whole truth. Her classmates feel very moved by her story. Darim apologizes for deceiving them, but they tell her it doesn't matter. Because of her, they became a successful team of mothers. Later, the ladies grab Yeyu to celebrate that they now know the whole truth. But he lets it slip and tells what happened on Yeyu Island. And they ask to hear the whole gossip. Darim feels more at ease at home now that the misunderstanding is resolved. Then they go to Yeyu's house where they finish what they left unfinished on Yeyu Island, and this time without taking a shower. The next day, Yeyu didn't want to get up. He wanted to stay in bed with Darim all day. Meanwhile, their mothers were talking about how their children should already have a partner. Yeyu's mother asks if Darim might be interested in her son, but Darim's mother says no because he's too handsome for her. Haeyoung tells her mother she likes Sunwoo. Her mother gets very angry and says she'll stop it immediately. But when she goes to talk to Sunwoo, he behaves in a very kind way and manages to charm Haeyoung's mother. In the end, she understands why her daughter is in love with him. At the same time, Darim and Yeyu got out of bed and spent the whole day together like a couple. When they finally go back to work, the team of mothers starts the market research. Everyone works really hard. They created a baby carrier that supports the mother's whole back instead of straining her shoulders. But when they finish the prototype, something very bad happens. The competition released an identical product in a different color before us. Yeyu's father was furious and hit Darim. Supposedly, she was the spy who had leaked the project. All of this was part of Yeyu's sister's plan. She wanted to use Darim to bring him down. That's why she even reveals that she seduced him to take advantage of him. Yeyu knows it's not true, so he tells his father that he loves her and that he'll clear up the misunderstanding himself. Meanwhile, at the company, everyone is speaking badly about Darim. But Yeyu knew she was innocent. His sister, on the other hand, was very happy because the company would finally be hers alone. At night, Haeyeon's mother goes to visit Seonwoo. Apparently, she didn't like seeing her daughter so sad. Yoon takes the opportunity to give her lots of gifts for Haeyeon. The lady is touched by his tenderness and even agrees to eat with them. Then she asks Seonwoo why her daughter doesn't like him if he's very handsome and also has a lot of money. He tells her that it's not that she doesn't like him. He just can't love her the way she deserves. For his part, Yeyu was investigating who was behind this whole plot, but Darim confesses that it was her. Apparently, Yeyu's sister blackmailed her into confessing. She warned that dragging it out could ruin the house, Yeyu's career, and her friends' careers. For their part, the mother's team trusted Darim blindly. They knew she wouldn't be capable of betraying them. The marketing team, on the other hand, mocks them. So they start fighting to defend their friend. Later, Yeyu's sister begins the next phase of her plan. She wanted the shareholders to take her side and vote to fire Yeyu. Since he was the president's son, they also had to vote to change the president so that the shareholders could keep control. At the same time, Darim cut off contact with all her friends. She didn't even want to see Yeyu, but he insisted until he was able to talk to her. He tells her everything is true, so she will stop fighting for her as she still was. Out of stubbornness, he tells her they should break up. He doesn't want to do it, but Darim cares about him a lot and doesn't want to hurt him. The next day, Darim was very depressed and decided to tell her mother the whole truth. She tells her that what she did was wrong, that from the beginning, she should have sold the house to pay off her debts. Instead of scamming people, Darim didn't want to lose her house, but her mother doesn't want her to keep fighting alone. Yeyu kept investigating, refusing to give up even though Darim wanted to quit. When he finally manages to get concrete evidence, he decides to visit Darim to tell her everything, but she had gone to the village with her aunt. That's why he goes to ask Sonu where she is. He admits that he has already lost, so he reveals to them where Darim is. She was in the field harvesting melons, but during her breaks, she couldn't help but remember how happy she was with Yeyu and with her work. At night, Yeyu arrives at Darim's uncle's house, but the man catches him and pulls out his machete. Luckily, Darim arrives and explains he's not a thief, but her ex-boyfriend. He wants to tell her that he already solved it, but Darim doesn't want to listen, although to stay, he says he hasn't eaten. That makes Darim's aunt prepare a feast for him while they talk. And Darim's uncle tells her that Samsik is interested in her. They've been friends since childhood, and now he's very successful. Yeyu tries to bluff and tells her that he's not Darim's ex, but her boyfriend. And he also tells the man that he was a sergeant in the army too. Later, Yehyok finally tells Darim everything. She tells him that they can't be together because she'll be his weakness, but Yehyok says he becomes even weaker if she's not around. The next day, Darim's uncle tells her that that day she should go with Samsik to harvest melons very early. This makes Yehyok wake up and want to work enthusiastically, but since he was new, he harvests very few melons. Then, finally, the famous Samsik arrives on his tractor. Seeing how cool he was, Yehyok feels jealous. Because of this, he starts competing to prove that he works harder. But no matter how hard he tries, Yehyok is no match for the fabulous Samsik. At the end of the day, Yehyok is battered, and Darim scolds him for overworking. He worked hard at a job he barely knew. Eventually, the two finally reconcile. When night falls, Yehyok returns to Seoul and assures her everything will be fine soon. The shareholders' meeting occurs the next day. Yehyok's sister exposes her father, accusing him of defending his son, embezzling funds, and mistreating his wife. This causes a great commotion, and the shareholders no longer trust him. Before voting begins, Yehyok arrives and plays an audio recording revealing the whole truth. The marketing manager was the one who sent the information about the new product to the competition. He also accuses his sister and Hayeon's brother of the fire that happened at the art exhibition. Hayeon's brother. He was very calm because that wouldn't affect his plans, but he didn't expect the real owner of the company to show up. Yehyok's mother had the majority of shares and could invalidate the meeting. This ruins all of Hayeon's brother's plans. When his father finds out, he hits and belittles him for his carelessness. Since everything was already over, Yehyok goes to buy flowers to visit Darim. But at that moment, Hayeon's brother runs him over because he can't stand having lost to him. Yehyok's sister sees everything and immediately calls an ambulance. The doctors manage to save his life, but he remains in critical condition. Yehyok's sister wasn't a monster. She didn't want her brother to die, so she testifies. Yehyok's father was losing everything he had usurped. His wife says she'll drop the charges. If he signs the divorce and resigns as president, Darim still stays by Yehyok's side. She stays with him to take care of him day and night. She even mentions to Samsik that it's to make him jealous and wake up faster, but nothing she does seems to work. After nearly 2 months, Yehyok wakes up, but he's not the same person we knew, because he doesn't remember anything that happened in the last few months. He doesn't even remember the love he felt for Darim. She tells him about their experiences, that they're a couple and deeply in love, but Yehyok doesn't believe her. He tells her that she's not his type at all and that she's probably trying to scam him. The team of mothers wants to help Darim, so they suggest recreating scenarios of what they experienced on the island. But Yehyok acts in a very different way and nothing seems pleasant to him. No matter how hard they try, nothing works. In the end, Yehyok tells Darim to give up, saying that based on what she said, it sounded like she was describing a totally different version of him. That's why losing his memory was the best thing for him. It lets him be himself again. Darim, she doesn't want to leave him, but she has no choice but to wait for him until he regains his memory. On his part, Yehyok's father scolds his daughter for betraying him after he took her into his home. She tells him she acted that way because he let her mother die and only cared for her after her mother was gone. Later, Yehyok's mother regains her job at the company while her husband is ruined. Hayeon's brother, on the other hand, lost all his father's support. Now he was a spoiled kid with no money, which is why the thugs end up beating him up. Heyeon, however, wants to go to the United States, whether you remember or not, but he calls her to tell her that his son is missing. She quickly comes back to look for him. After running a lot, she manages to find him and asks him not to scare her like that again. The next day, Yehyok returns home, but as he resumes his routine, he feels something is missing. Sometime later, Darim and her mother managed to sell their house, but the buyer was none other than Yehyok's mother. She also asked Darim to return to work at the company. Darim doesn't want to go back because she feels guilty, so the lady suggests starting a new company. That way, she wouldn't be working for her, but they would be partners. This makes Darim happy, and she promises to work hard. Sometime later, everything seemed to be going its way, although Darim couldn't help but miss Yehyok. After a year, they find Darim's sister. She was hiding on Yehyok's island. Since they couldn't contact her, she didn't know that her debts had been paid there. Because of this, Darim has to go find her to tell her that she can come back now. But when he arrives at the island, it turns out that day was his sister's day off. He has to find her at the hotel where she worked as a waitress and had her first kiss with Yeyu. When she arrives, there was a party, and the guard tells her she can't go in dressed like that, so she changes and wears the same dress she wore when she kissed Yeyu for the first time. By a twist of fate, he was also at the party, but when he saw her looking exactly the same, he started to remember everything they went through together. Suddenly, Darim trips and they kiss again. The explosive kiss makes Yeyu recover all his memories. After that, they move in together and become the happiest couple in the world again. Then, not wanting to wait any longer, they get married. Seonu, for his part, had become a renowned artist. Although he still wasn't dating Hyeyeon, she hadn't lost hope. They're almost a couple. It's just a matter of time before they become official. Secretary Kang and Miss Lee also got married and would soon have a child. The mothers now work directly with Darim, and their products sold very well worldwide. Yeyu and Darim, despite the years, loved each other like the first day. They had 2 beautiful children. When they saw them, they couldn't help but think, how did a simple kiss turn into a happy family? This is how Dynamite Kiss ends. I read some comments saying the ending was really bad, but I actually liked it because it's a happy ending. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Thank you so much for watching the video until the end. I hope you enjoyed the summary. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. See you in the next story.